Hello and welcome to Body Bags. It's week 241 and I am James, your fill-in reviewer. And this week I've decided to take a look at the Kevin Smith movie, Tusk. This one definitely is a film that splits opinion. It's a horror comedy, and like I said, it's by Kevin Smith. He's done such films as Clerks and Dogma, two fantastic films, two 90s films, and maybe that was the peak of his times. But let's get into this. So, I mean, I think most people who haven't seen this even know what this is about. But we have Justin Long and Haley Joel Osment, the kid from Sixth Sense. So these two are podcasters, and they're a popular big podcast. And one of the things that they do, what the character of Justin Long does is he goes and interviews like weird and crazy people from around the country and up in Canada as well, which is in fact where he goes for this. So yeah, he travels to Canada to interview someone, but that person he goes to interview is actually just committed suicide. So he's in that bar, and he just happens to be in the toilet, and he reads this like wall. There's all these different pins on there, and there's a note from a guy called was it Howard Howe, played by Michael Parks, and he's looking for someone to basically rent a room, but he says he can live there for free. I have just all these amazing stories to tell, which obviously piques Justin Long's interest. So he goes there, he goes to meet him, he's starting to hear all these amazing and wonderful stories, and we hear about the story of a walrus named Mr. Tusk, that he's quite enamoured to. He has quite a fondness for, as that character, Michael Parks. And one thing leads to another, and basically Justin Long's character is drugged while drinking tea, and he passes out. And when he wakes up, all shit goes down, basically. Don't really want to say too much more because there's some people that have not seen this film, and so I don't want this to be like a spoiler or anything, but that's where we go, and you can kind of figure out maybe where it goes with a film called Tusk. But I actually enjoy this film quite a lot. It has a lot of hate. Yeah, it's a horror comedy. It's a very strange one. The ending leaves a little bit to be desired, I guess, but I enjoyed it for what it was. It's a funny film. It has some quite dark moments to it as well. What did I note? Yeah, so funny, bathed in a dark light with strange twists and turns. Yeah, there's a few twists and turns through this. And yeah, that's kind of basically it. I think I did write another couple of things down. Sorry, it's quite late here. I was going to actually do this earlier, but I had to do some work. But I actually, years ago, this is based kind of loosely on a Gumtree advert. Gumtree is like Craigslist. This is something that I don't know in the US or anywhere else, but in the UK, this kind of story was kind of known. It'd been picked up about that there was someone. It's in a seaside town resort of Brighton where they had a free room. Now, all the person had to do was dress up as a walrus and do walrus stuff for one night a week, something along those lines. So yeah, when they were dressed up as a walrus, they had to act like a walrus, eat like a walrus, communicate like a walrus. However that works. But it wasn't a real ad. Obviously, it was. It's actually a fan of Kevin Smith, and it's kind of like a reach out letter to him for him to kind of pick up on that. And obviously, eventually, he did pick up on that. But at the time of reading that, I remember my old workplace, like when it was picked up on, I think it was picked up on a like small news channel or something. It was quite amusing. So like to hear this all come around again, it was quite interesting a few years ago. And actually, it's something that he's talked about on his podcast, or his Smodcast, I think he calls it. But he actually did a vote on Tusk. It's like hashtag yes or hashtag yes Tusk or hashtag no Tusk or something like that about whether he should make the film. Obviously, he had more yeses than nos. And yeah, like I said, this is what gets made. Yeah, it's a dialogue-driven movie. It's quite interesting dialogue. It's there's lots of stories that is told by Michael Parks, and I think most people know who he is, and he's a great character actor, and just telling the stories, it's kind of, you get sucked into that, and he makes it sound because like, some of them are a little bizarre, but it just makes them sound really interesting. And Justin Long's character, it's a difficult acting job, that one, but pulls it off all right. I think it's a tough one, and yeah, there's even a cameo from Johnny Depp as one of his, one of his quirky characters that he does, and the first couple of minutes is annoying as hell, and then when you get used to it, it's actually quite a good and interesting character, and he helps build like the crescendo of the film. When he clicks in, that's when the whole third act starts, and that's when we all flow into what happens at the end. And yeah, the flow of the film is quite nice. We have a few flashbacks. We see what's going on with our character Justin Long. We see what's going on back home with his co-podcaster and his girlfriend, and it's all bouncing around quite nice. And like I said, it's an enjoyable film. It's I understand maybe it's not to everyone's tastes. Like I said, the ending is, it's not weak. It's a difficult film to end, and I thought it ended okay where they left it. But yeah, not a difficult one to talk about. It's very like subjective. It's kind of, I think it's along one of those lines of it's a love or hate film, and I actually do really enjoy this one. So I would definitely recommend, if you've not seen it, give it a watch. It's funny, it's a comedy, but it's not over the top comedy, and for a lot of the time it actually gets quite dark. But then mixed in with what's happening, it's like you're kind of a bit, not disgusted by it, but you're a bit, okay, that's strange and funny, and it's a whole twist. And it gets you thinking afterwards. You're thinking about stuff, and yeah, it's actually quite a well-written film, well-scripted film, and well-acted film. So, yeah, recommendation for Tusk. Thank you very much. Good night.